In part 4 of our VOA's series on HIV/AIDS, President Goodluck Jonathan of Nigeria and President Yoweri Museveni of Uganda are two African leaders who embrace legislation which targets the gay community. In Uganda, an anti-homosexuality law criminalizes same-sex relations, while in Nigeria, same-sex couples that show affection in public risk 10 years imprisonment. The laws in both countries are forcing communities vulnerable to HIV deeper into the shadows.
In Uganda, religion is used as a weapon against homosexuality.
Don't decide tomorrow. Tomorrow might be too late for salvation. Homosexuality is prohibited here in Uganda. We don't want it.
You get people, these mobs of people who are protesting, who are screaming, kill the gays, death to the gays. But it's not really about the gays, it's about them being frustrated with their own lives, and it's about the scapegoat, and it's about the government using gay people as a scapegoat.
And tell us not to stop the fight to protect our children from sodomy.
In Africa, homosexuality is against the law in 37 countries. The movie God Loves Uganda documents the influence of American evangelicals on anti-gay policies in Uganda.
American fundamentalist evangelicals have targeted Uganda for decades. And Uganda was a perfect storm because it was decimated, had the highest rate of HIV and AIDS in Africa. And so American evangelicals saw an opportunity and they moved in.
My goal is always to discourage sexual promiscuity of every sort. I believe that governments, all the governments of the world, have an affirmative duty to promote the natural family and marriage as the mainstream culture.
There's all of those things that is not God's way for love.
In Bible study classes like this one, they teach the belief that God does not love gays.
Nigeria and Uganda now are producing these pastors that were raised on this sort of idea that, you know, biblical law is above civil law. So what you're seeing now is the results of 30 years of American evangelicals being involved in the country.
In February of 2014, President Yoweri Museveni signed a bill outlawing same-sex relations in Uganda.
At best, it's paternalistic colonialism. At worst, it's outrageously racist to suggest that the Africans are children who cannot make up their own minds about what morality their country should follow.
A similar law was passed in Nigeria. Afani Arazuliki runs a clinic providing healthcare services for gay men in Abuja, Nigeria. 17% of gay men in Nigeria are HIV positive.
We can't keep quiet for people to die or for people to lose their life. The law, on the other hand, we are battling the law because even people like us stand to go for 10 years imprisonment for doing what we're doing. Bobby, how are you?
Today, he is investigating a hate crime against a young gay teenager. Health officials in Uganda and Nigeria believe the new anti-gay laws will somehow lower HIV infection rates. Afani says the laws only promote violence and fear.
Ever since that night, the mobs attack, life has not been the same any longer in this community. You know, the beating, you know, They seized my phone.
They came to attack.
Before the law, 15 new patients walked into his clinic every week. Now that number is down to 4.
The world is saying we want HIV/AIDS-free generation. We can't achieve that without including men who have sex with men. We can't achieve that without involving transgender people.
Nigerian officials say no one is being denied health services because of the law.
Where the law is concerned is when gays would go and congregate and show that we are gays and we are making love on the street and all of that. The law frowns at that. And treatment for any kind of disease in Nigeria is open to all citizens, irrespective of their status.
You cannot walk into a clinic, you cannot get drugs if you're HIV positive in Nigeria. It's nearly impossible. You are so restricted, you are so stigmatized, you are so discriminated against by the healthcare industry. So for him to say that is crazy.
Undeterred, Afani presses on.
When I wake up every day, I want to do more. I want to see people smile. I want to see equality that is achieved across board in Nigeria someday of our life.
Afani is absolutely a hero. I think it's very hard for people in the West to understand exactly what he's up against, the hostility and hatred that he's up against, and that the fact that he refuses to back down and goes into the fire and faces it is unbelievable, unbelievable.
Tomorrow, part 5 of our series on HIV/AIDS takes us to Cambodia, where we look at one woman's struggle to overcome a life tragedy and her own HIV-positive diagnosis. That's Friday on Africa 54.